Hello, are you there? May I come in? He's not answering his phone. He better not be making a fool of me. I'm just going to let myself in. It's a bit dark in here, isn't it? I'll be turning some lights on. I'm sorry if you prefer to have them off. There you are. Oh. Oh, you don't look well. Can you look at me? Are you able to focus? Oh, good. Nevertheless, you appear unwell. Are you all right? I must ask, have you been feeding regularly? It's a formality, but it's important. So, when was the last time you fed? I see. Well, that's why it's so important to ask. If you don't mind, I will just bring you some of your blood supply. Come again? It's gone where? Ah, I see. It can be tough to remember to stay stocked up. It takes a long time to develop a habit for it. I should keep that in mind and check in with you. Not that I think little of your intelligence, because I think rather highly of that. No, it's because, as an elder vampire, it is my duty to see you are properly acclimating to the lifestyle. Well, no, you are not behind any expected benchmark. There is no progression plan or curricula for what we are. I'm just seeing a vampire who could benefit from a little mentoring. But I digress. I'll bring you some sustenance. And then we can go through our conversation afterwards. Thankfully, I keep a little bit with me, in case of emergencies. It's not much, but it should get you back on your feet. Here. Why the hesitation? Please. For your health. Right, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Go on and drink, I insist. You must have been hungry for a while. It looks like you were preparing to shave, but you didn't have the strength to whip up any lather. I'm judging from that scruff that's been allowed to grow in. While you're feeding, I'm curious to know what you mean when you say Logan is as good as he's going to get. Is he at a point in his therapy where there's no more progress possible? I have noticed the same thing. He is very much in control of himself when he shifts into his werewolf form. I have you to thank for that. However, he has been experiencing secondary effects of the treatment. I just wanted to know if you've noticed the same things. Are you ready? Excellent. I have noticed things while in conversation with him. He doesn't remember certain details and moments in his life. For instance, when he was attacked by a werewolf as a child. He seems to have no memory at all of this, even though he understands that it happened. There are gaps in his memory, like meeting me. However, he seems to understand we must have met at some point. Here is something I'm particularly worried about. He has vivid memories, very detailed actually, of events that did not take place. He believes his parents were slain by the werewolf that attacked him. But that is not consistent with the incident report, which validated their whereabouts after the fact. No, Logan seems unfazed by this. Though from a clinical standpoint, these gaps are worrisome. You seem unsurprised, and you just said he won't lose any more memories. I'm afraid there's no gentle way of putting this. I'm getting the sense that you knew this would happen. Is that true? Is it true that you realized that he would have memory issues? Well, as it so happens, the night is young, and I have enough time for a long story. But first, why didn't you tell me? Now, when did you tell him? Oh, and he agreed? Wait, it shouldn't matter. He's just a child. He's only 27. He should have told me. I should have asked. I should have done my due diligence. He didn't understand what he was getting into. Even if you told him everything, is he mature enough to understand it? So what if he's mature? Why didn't you tell me? Oh. That's exactly right. I understand it now. He is a grown man, capable of making his own choices. Even choices I would not have made. I'm sorry, I hardly noticed, but the whole time I was thinking about myself. I don't normally do that with a patient. You knew? You knew he meant more to me than just a patient? You could tell through his memories. So tell me more about that. What happened to them? Why are so many of them suddenly gone, changed? Excuse me? Wow, that's interesting. If what you say is true and your power really isn't your own, then whose is it? Yes, the beginning is a good place to start. So, let me see if I understand this. You died, but it wasn't from a vampire. You were made into a vampire by a person named Badal. He gave you the power to extract memories, and you use these memories as currency to buy blood with them. And when you deliver memories to him, like you're some sort of astrological parcel service, Badal provides you with the blood you need to continue working for him. Is that about it? Right. So you have no idea where you're from or how old you are, because you've already traded your own memories for blood. And why is Badal interested in memories in particular? Understood. Well, it's official. You've been somewhere I haven't been. You've been dead. I'm alive, but I can't prove it by medical standards. Logan is alive, but legally dead. What a diverse community we have. So, what was the purpose of changing his recollection of his parents? You did that too, right? I see. So, he's no longer afraid he'll run into his parents and have them recognize him. Realistically, they wouldn't recognize him anyway. It's been almost 20 years. But that's the power of fear and trauma. I'll gladly be less of a vampire if it means I don't utilize that power. I digress. You're out of blood, so I should take that as a sign that you've delivered all of his memories and have no more. You have one remaining. What is this a memory of? The carnival. That was before Logan turned. Pray tell, why did you hold on to that one in particular? You might not have been weak and emaciated right now had you done that. You wanted one to watch while you drifted off to sleep. What do you mean, drifting off but not to sleep? Is that what the straight razor here is for? Oh no. Oh please no, not this. Right, but why would you channel your power to do this? Well, believe it or not, I can actually understand that part. Being a vampire is difficult at times. So I can see how, if you were given the choice, you might think you made a mistake. That all makes sense. But a much bigger mistake would be considering this exit as the only viable option. All the ordinary reasons aside, you're also telling me that this Badal person will be waiting for you. What's going to happen? How are you going to sing to him, "I'm not going to do your dirty work no more"? How will he take that? All the more reason to reconsider. I'll show you the regular modern way vampires feed. It's a bit taxing if you want to be ethical, but it's possible. Being a doctor in an emergency room has its dubious ethics. I shouldn't be so excited for a hemorrhaging patient, but the blood they've bled, well, waste not, want not, so they say. We will think of a plan for you. Oh, perhaps the werewolves you treat can pay you for their therapy with their blood. They have considerably more when they are shifted. And they have a strong pulse. At least my little Logan does. It would be one illegal species helping another. I can see how I sound like this man who took advantage of you, offering you a clandestine way for you to make it in the world. I don't blame you for being apprehensive. Does it help that I share in your struggle, Do I sound more credible since you've actually done something for me? Done me a favor by helping Logan with his lycanthropy? It means so much to me that he's doing better. Do you mean that patient or that werewolf? Yes, of course. Given my age, you'd think attachments would only end in heartbreak. Which, yes, it occasionally does. I have a medical interest in werewolves. Sociological interest as well. When I first met Logan, he was just 10 years old and pale as death. I was seeing to his initial care. The poor boy was being rushed to surgery. His pulse was weak, but he was not ready to go. Brave boy, according to the witnesses, he ran in front of his little sister to confront the loose, enraged, hungry werewolf that preyed on the family during a camping trip. While the werewolf mercilessly attacked helpless Logan and scattered wet fibers of his courage on the ground, the campers fired a volley of lead into the werewolf. Each of them were blameless in my sight. You do what you do. If you are a vampire, you drink blood. If you are a werewolf, you eat whatever meat is in front of you. If you're a loving, righteous family, you spend all of your ammunition to protect that family. And if you're a foolish boy hero, you jump in front of a werewolf. You can't really call it a loss or a win. But when he passed by me on the stretcher, holding the blood-soaked rag on his neck, I felt great remorse, not hunger. I asked to be assigned to the case, and I suppose I earned a bit of a reputation as the blood loss doctor because they were already going to assign him to me. His surgery was a success, and he would recover with a transfusion. He was able to sleep for a few hours, but I was there when he woke up. I told him the normal medical things, but because I overheard the conversation from the family, I asked what compelled him to rush a werewolf. You want to hear what this little thing told me? He said he wanted to be like the hero Wolverine from the cartoons. Yes, that very one. I'm not surprised to know that you know about him. He's a very popular character, but Logan liked him specifically because they share a name. I told him he better heal like Wolverine does. I thought he would find that encouraging, or at least humorous. But he quietly looked into the distance for a moment. I found his heart slowed down a bit as he thought. I assured him he didn't have to be a mutant to recover, but he asked how sure I was. I wanted to be right, I suppose. I wanted to tell him with absolute certainty he'd pull through, but I knew there was a real possibility he wouldn't. There was one thing I could do to help his chances, though. You see, you have your powers of manipulation, and I, to a lesser extent, have mine. I have a technique called Irresistible Command. A person has to be at a low point, which makes them the most open to suggestion anyway. So you might wonder why I bother with a vampiric ability when I could just as easily save my strength and talk to them in an ordinary human way. Well, Irresistible Command masks itself as the person's own thought. So they honestly believe they came up with the idea themselves. They believe in it more passionately. It also completely nullifies anything that will interfere with the command. In many cases, it quiets forces like anxiety, doubt, addiction, etc. So what does this have to do with his question? He asked if he would survive. I wanted to be right. I told him, I'm going to give you an irresistible command. Are you ready? He told me he was, and I locked eyes with him and I said, You will live. From there, he was much more confident in his chances. And I let him rest more. Using that vampiric power is a risky move. It takes a lot of power to do, and there's no guarantee it will work. Even an incredible will to live isn't enough if your body is shutting down. I went into the lobby to update his family on his condition. They were quiet and tired, but Logan's father asked me about sending him to a treatment facility since his son was now a werewolf. He seemed so certain. I estimated that there was a chance, but I'd never had someone so young become infected with lycanthropy. I said time would tell. To be frank, though, the boy would be lucky if he lived at all. Turns out he was lucky. His condition stabilized. He was transferred to the intensive care unit. I checked in with him at night, though I let him rest as much as possible. I wanted to see for myself he was recovering. since he was such a unique case. Eventually, Logan had the strength to leave the hospital, but the law required that he be transported to a treatment facility for lichens, in case he was one. His family came to see him off and wished him well. Logan reached out to hug his sister, but she stepped back like she was frightened. The boy looked to his parents and then to me, arms still held out, waiting, wanting, confused. His mother adjusted her grip on an umbrella protectively, and then she told her son they wished they could hug him, but they couldn't take the risk. It was bad enough to have one werewolf in the family, and they were worried he'd spread the disease. I don't think they thought things through, though, since someone would have to bring Logan to the facility. If they were right about how lycanthropy is transmitted, treatment would be impossible. But worse is the very same sister he stood up to a werewolf to protect couldn't muster the courage to comfort him. And I am aware of the treatment at these facilities. I imagine the cruelty he'd endure. A child whose very family left him without so much as the warmth of a brief embrace. I just couldn't have that. And I offered to transport Logan myself. It was getting late, and I was the only one well rested. And I'm a medical professional, which means I know how to keep from being infected. Mind you, these were never issues. I just told them these excuses to navigate through their misconceptions. I took his paperwork and took him to my car. I brought him to a cabin up north, in the pathless woods. Told him that that was the treatment facility, and that it was a one-on-one deal. I hoped to bring him back after the first full moon and assure his family that he was clear of any lycanthropy. But eventually that night came around, and that little boy grew to be a vicious, matted hellhound that towered over me, even hunched over. The first time I gave him an irresistible command, it was for him to live. This time, it was for me to live. I told him not to hurt me. And though he thrashed about, we both survived that night. And in the morning I held him. He wanted to know why I was so cold, and I told him that I'm a vampire. I'm not legally allowed to exist either, and I would teach him what that means. I filed his paperwork and wrote down that Logan didn't make the journey to the harmful species treatment facility. It was a difficult transition from one life to another. Thank goodness I had help from the witch ghost Penelope. Did Logan ever talk about her in therapy? Really? I wonder why. She was an extraordinary help. But you're an extraordinary help too. You managed to do in but a few months what I couldn't do in 17 years. So I have a proposal. That memory you have of Logan at the carnival, you should hold on to it. Whenever you feel like you're not cut out for your role, or that you're better off gone, take a look at that life you restored. You are capable of great things. No, thank you. Well, I've just about accomplished everything I set out to do tonight. I recommend you use that razor for shaving, and I will keep in touch with you. Oh, and Ted, If you're short on blood and need to sell memories, have you considered reading a book? The library might be your friend. Hi, this is Grunge Panzer. I hope you liked my audio. If you did, consider giving it a like. If you didn't, I'm open to notes. My super thanks is open. If you really liked it, you can provide me with some support, which pays for things like recording equipment and thumbnail artwork and guest voices. If you decide to leave a super thanks comment, it's a guaranteed reply from me, so it's a pretty good avenue to ask questions or just have a prominent location for your comment on the thread. Thank you, and look forward to more content.